Well, Brazil has suspended beef exports to China after confirming 2 cases of BSE recently in 2 domestic meat plants. Well, with China being the country's biggest customer for beef, many do wonder what ripple effects this might have for U.S. producers. Well, Ethan Lane with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association joins us now with the latest insight on the situation. And Ethan, as always, thanks for your time here this morning. Can you give us an update on things and what you're hearing from the industry?
Sure. This is an atypical case of BSE down in Brazil, which, as has been confirmed by the OIE over the years, is something that spontaneously occurs. It doesn't pose an immediate threat to the beef supply chain, but it is a reminder that we need to make sure that we're vigilant whenever we're dealing, especially with a country like Brazil that has had trouble in the past consistently meeting FSIS standards to import beef to the United States. So, it's one of those opportunities to kind of make sure that we recognize that while this particular incident, assuming it is limited to just these 2 cases, they should be able to resume exports to China within the next 2 weeks. But we do want to make sure we're just reminding folks, especially USDA, to keep a vigilant eye on that status of trade with Brazil.
Ethan, could this end up having any kind of potential benefits for U.S. beef exports?
Not unless it was to extend beyond the next 2 weeks. It's not a long enough period of time necessarily to create a huge increase in exports from our own producers to the Chinese market, although that market does continue to grow at a pretty aggressive clip, which we're pleased with. This is a brief hiccup for Brazil, so we don't anticipate this being a long-term benefit unless there's more to it, which it doesn't appear that there is at this time.
So what are you keeping an eye on moving forward, Ethan?
We're going to continue to really keep the pressure on USDA. We have full faith and confidence in their ability to protect the U.S. herd from any of these kinds of issues. But we do want to keep reminding folks that, there has been a kind of a checkered history with Brazil meeting those obligations, with them making timely reports of BSE cases down in Brazil. And that's something we want to keep an eye on very carefully. They just regained access in the last few years. That took a lot of inspections from FSIS to get them to that point. They've lost it in the past, and we want to make sure that USDA is remaining extremely vigilant with some of those countries that have a little bit of a difficulty over the years consistently meeting those obligations. So that's going to be our main focus moving forward.
Ethan, one final quick question. China's been known to use excuses to keep some doors closed for those imports. Do you see that perchance happening at all?
Well, that's always the concern here, not just for Brazil, but particularly more importantly for us and our exports to those markets. We never want to see those non-science-based barriers be used as a weapon. They can be used against us as easily as they can be used against other countries. So we're always careful when we engage in these kind of things that we want to stick to the science, and we want to let the science guide that decision-making process, because you do have countries like China that can misuse some of those issues from time to time, and we want to avoid that. It's too important for us to continue to grow those export markets.
All right, Ethan, as always, thanks for your insight. Again, National Cattlemen's Beef Association Government Affairs Vice President Ethan Lane on the phone with us. Go online to ncba.org for more information.